Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Looks like a tough start to the live stream. I threw a chain in case Casey's got a customer, so just gonna take a minute and straighten out my chain. Hey West Country, glad you're in there, buddy. Grumpy, Keller, our favorite person. Check out West Country Mudlark's channel if you like treasure hunting. That guy's just finding some cool stuff in the mud, and I'm gonna bring you with me, and we're gonna see if we can straighten out my chain real quick. Threw my chain on the saw. How's the people doing? Yeah.
Oh, what?
They didn't want to leave.
Who?
The customers.
Oh, no. Hi, Lori.
I've got your thing right here.
Okay.
You're shouting people out, saying hi to everyone.
Yeah, so I don't know who you saw. Lori Keller, Grumpy's Laid Back Carvings,
Hey, Grumpy.
West Country Mudlarks,
Yeah, I called out West Country.
Matthew,
Hey, Matthew.
Billy Munso,
Billy, glad you're in there, buddy.
Billy Shoemate,
Welcome.
Storm, I know Storm Spotter Hannah's in there.
Hey, Hannah. So we're carving a 6-foot bear today, and that's what's on the agenda. We've been working on Bigfoot, and pretty much done. I got a little sanding and stuff left on the face. I'm starting to experiment with some different fur texture. I wanted to kind of put some a little nicer fur texture than what I typically would do with my chainsaw. So I'm playing around with the die grinder a little bit, but mostly Bigfoot's done. You'll see a little bit of progress. I'm finishing it off camera. Most of the kind of just tedious stuff now.
Billy Shoemate says Bigfoot has been working out at the gym.
Yes, he's muscled up, isn't he?
Matthew says mushrooms are crazy cool.
Thank you, Matthew.
Lori Keller says looks nice here today.
Thank you. And mushrooms are an awesome beginner project. I don't know. Usually we have somebody hanging around that's learning how to carve. So
Don't know how to say this, but Deal Donk is here, says hi.
hey, how are you? Well, I got my chain back on. It's a little tighter than it was, so hopefully it'll stay on there.
Joyce Nelson says, love your work. I've been wanting a large strawberry. My logo, personal, not business. Where are you?
We're in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. So if you're within jumping off distance of there, shoot us an email, and we'll talk to you a little bit about pricing and how big and that kind of stuff. We don't typically discuss too much on the live stream about that sort of thing. But our email is on our YouTube page, CreationDust777. And don't forget to hit the like button, guys.
Bear is here.
Hey, Bear. So I guess Bear is, I guess he's live streaming after me today. I know he typically live streams on Sundays, but you could let him know, Bear. I think he's going afterwards. No sign on this one, right?
No. Spike Willow here.
Hey Spike, welcome buddy.
The electric whittler.
Electric.
Rhinestone Suzanne.
Hey Suzanne. All three of those people are awesome members of our channel, and we really do appreciate the membership.
Delance is here.
Hey Delan.
Night Owl.
Ethan Fletcher, welcome buddy.
Roy Works.
Roy Works. We haven't seen him in a while. I know he hasn't been feeling well, so send a little prayer up for you. Hope you're doing better. And I did notice that was it Roy Works or Tim Roy's?
Yeah, Roy Works.
Oh, Roy Works. I was getting them confused. I thought it was Roy's Timber Works. Roy's Timber Arts, right? I messed up there.
Amy Jo is here.
Hey, Amy Jo.
Jack Slayton.
Who is it?
Jack Slayton.
Hey, Jack.
I think I got everybody.
Just dropping down a level and keep on going. So the mushrooms are almost done. They pretty well are done. I don't know if you can see there's a little bit of wood filler where I screwed each one of these on, so probably later in the live stream, toward the end, we'll go ahead and sand that stuff down, and that's the last little bit, just the little touch-ups.
got Plywood here.
Hey, Plywood.
And Electric Whittler just did like the super chat gifts.
Thank you very much,
Sent
Electric.
us 2 of them, and he said he wasn't really sure how those worked. But I looked it up because I actually realized that you did that last time, and I didn't really know what it was. But the jewels, I think, like end up like they're each jewel is like the equivalent of, I believe, like a penny. And so that's how that works. Sent another one.
Cool. I think he was dropping Easter egg baskets or something on Bear's live stream.
He's sending us happy poop this time.
What is it?
Happy poop.
Oh, okay. Definitely check out Electric Whittler's channel.
Thanks, Electric Whittler.
Thank you very much. He's putting out some cool videos, and he's a talented Dremel carver. People are ready to be on the ground.
Cool.
Get rid of this staging. Finally getting some beautiful weather here. It feels like summertime as well. I don't know how warm it is today, but it's very nice.
Oops, sorry, go ahead.
That's a good spot. Right side of your work.
Probably, yeah, that's fine.
We're kind of working on cleaning up our sawdust. What happens in the winter, it freezes into a solid mound, into a solid chunk, so we can't haul it away. We typically haul it to the dump, but it's starting to thaw out. Like big chunks of ice and stuff still hanging around.
Electric Whittler says it's 89 there today.
Wow, I don't think we quite got that one.
No, I think we're like 72 is the high here.
Woo-hoo. I'll take it.
Yep. Plywood says my flatbed trailer floor is made of scaffold planks.
Say it again?
My flatbed trailer floor is made of scaffold planks.
Very cool. I've been watching some of Plywood's videos, some of his shorts and stuff, and what I'm gathering is that Plywood is a trucker, so just interesting. Casey's dad is a over-the-road trucker. He trucks all across the United States. But I know Plywood's having some warehouse problems, so warehouse. But check out Plywood's videos. He puts out shorts and stuff like that. Cool channel to support. Nice guy.
Electric says Mr. Roy is a truck driver as well.
Mr. Roy. Royce from Roy's Timber Arts, or Jason from Roy Works? I'm pretty sure Jason from Roy Works is not a trucker, but could be wrong.
Trucker Kevin's there.
Hey,
He says,
Kevin.
a brother trucker. Trucker Kevin is my father.
Right on. Kevin, check out Plywood's channel. You would probably appreciate it.
Plywood said, was the driver want to get into woodworking? And Electric Whittler says he was talking about Roy's Timber Arts.
Does Roy's Timber Art still truck, or is he? I wonder if he's still doing that.
Debbie Perez here.
Hey Debbie.
Got the Runic workshop.
Runic. Check out Runic's channel. He does a lot of painting, like really cool, high-end, I would consider it, kind of painting.
Did I ever say night owl?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Aiden's got an awesome channel, guys. Don't forget to support Aiden and check out his videos. So nice to be carving when the warmer weather.
Yep, not have to have like 27 layers of clothing on.
Yeah.
And still be cold.
Bulky sweatshirts and just the ease of movement, never mind being cold. Oh, chainsaws are thirsty.
I'll let you take this.
How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. Anything we can help you with? Sure.
Ian, you don't sell plywood, do you?
No.
No.
We, are you guys like campers?
Yeah, we come up for the weekend. No, not campers. We're down the road in a hotel. We're gonna burn a fire tonight.
We give away all these scraps to like campers and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's free for the taking, but it's pine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just staying at a hotel that has a fire pit. And
So we're live streaming right now. We're going out to a live audience worldwide. Yeah.
oh, really?
They're watching us carve.
What's the channel?
It's called CreationDust777.
Let me take a picture of that.
Sure.
So then I can look.
You guys mind being on camera? I think she's kind of aiming down, but if you don't mind.
No.
No, oh, no, you don't mind or
I
no?
don't mind.
Okay.
This is great.
Say hi, everyone.
That's scratching.
Awesome. Thank you. Where are you guys from?
Newton. Yep.
Well, if you want to look around inside, feel free. If you
Okay,
have any questions, please write us down. We're just doing our thing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, help yourself. Take it all. If I wasn't busy, I'd help you load it up.
Thank you so much.
That's how we get rid of it. Hopefully,
If you don't mind if you take pictures of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day, guys.
You too.
If you need anything, just come get us. We have a lot of bears looking for us.
But our Bruins didn't do so good.
Yeah. And they're quiet. And they don't eat much.
No cleanup.
It's true. You don't shed.
She's still in there, but NG was in there.
Hey, MG.
Canadian John is here.
Canadian John.
And we got Archie Spillet hanging out in there.
Right on.
And Archie asked if you if you paint the carved animals.
Is it RT or Archie?
Archie.
Archie. Some of them paint, and some of them I paint, and some of them I don't. I guess is the quick answer. The mushrooms are painted. I mean, those aren't animals, but I will say of all of my skills pertaining to carving, I probably lack the most in painting skills. And painting can take your carving just from you know, a good carving to absolutely extraordinary just with the paint job. So many people are talented, like airbrush artists and that kind of stuff. And just to kind of, you know, drive that point home, I had done an owl not too long ago, and it was a pretty nice owl. And the guy took it, and he had a buddy of his paint it with an airbrush. And I looked at the carving afterwards, and I didn't even recognize it. I didn't even know it was my own work. I mean, that owl looked like it was going to fly away. It looked so realistic. So painting can really add tremendous things to your carvings. And I know Rhinestone Suzanne was a painter before she was a carver, and I can see some of those skills really shining through on some of her faces and stuff that are awesome to begin with. And then she does some subtle painting, and it just knocks it out of the ballpark. So I do a little bit of painting. Mostly I like sanding and urethanes and stuff like this. But I would love to improve my painting skills, I guess. There's always something to learn.
Mark Tries to Carve is here.
Hey, Mark.
Storm Spotter Hannah's here.
Hey, Hannah.
And Archie said you should make an eagle, and Trucker Kevin said he's got an awesome eagle inside the shop.
Let's go look at it right now. I'm gonna take a breather anyways. I'm working hard. So just to kind of, you know, talk about like painting, more like urethane and staining and this kind of stuff. So you can kind of see, try not to get the rabbit in there.
Okay.
Copyright strike on our stuff. Subtle contrast with different types of urethane, like the beak, for example, is an oil-based urethane, and that amber and yellow wood. These fish are the same thing. And then you can see on this part of the eagle, I used a water-based urethane, which kind of kept it light-colored. Same thing on the tail feathers. And then just some real subtle staining. So I'm not big on painting. This is more my kind of forte, my style. And if you look over here, you're not getting the rabbit, right?
I just did. Sorry. I can fix that later.
Same sort of a deal. Subtle staining and urethanes and stuff like this. So, but I do admire people that are talented with painting. So we're gonna go back out. I'm gonna have a drink of water and see about finishing our bear. And special thanks to my wife, the camera lady, that does an awesome job. Everybody always reminds me of how talented and great that she is, and it's the truth. So thank you, Casey.
Raja is here.
Roger, welcome in, buddy. Check out Raja's channel. He does lathe turning and this sort of a thing. Talented guy.
Plywood said, wow, awesome eagle.
Thank you, Plywood. Everybody has to have quiet exhaust except motorcycles. I don't know.
We're already up to 87 likes.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate that. We're close to 100. If you guys could knock us up over 100, that'd be awesome.
Trucker Kevin said, and Peterbilts.
Peterbilts?
They don't have to have exhaust either.
Oh, really?
Or maybe they're saying they do. I think I don't know if he was joking.
Yeah, probably depends where you are. I think some of the semis that go by here are the loudest vehicles on the road. And I thought maybe the trucking industry was bad and they couldn't afford an exhaust, but I guess it's just bragging rights. They like it when it's loud.
Archie Spillett says that's a big pile of sawdust.
Yeah, we build that up all winter and then slowly work on getting rid of it. So we haul a load every week to the dump, a trailer load, and we've already hauled 3 loads since the spring. But this back half is so frozen solid, it's one chunk. I can't even pull that stuff out of there yet anyways. I would need like a gigantic excavator to lift the whole mound up. It's frozen, so this is stuff we scraped up and we cleaned up around. Casey did a lot of the yard work, so.
Thanks, Aiden.
Steve. Awesome member of our channel right there.
Don't know if they're still here, but Kelly Hop.
Hey, Kelly.
Father time.
Welcome.
And Aiden says, because we're at 97 likes, says that you need to dance with the rest of the likes.
I'm horrible at dancing, guys.
Plywood said, I didn't know CD danced, and Trucker Kevin said he sings also.
Yeah.
And Bear said, something tells me that Josh might be a slightly better dancer than me, and that is really not saying much at all. In fact, it's scary for him because I am horrible.
Well, when I'm running my chainsaw, that's when I feel like I'm dancing. Or at least the kind of dancing that I'm good at. I mean, if you guys will really bump us over to 100, I'll make a fool out of myself. And you guys can all have a chuckle. Yeah, and we do appreciate all those likes. That's awesome. Thank you very much. And we appreciate all our channel members and everybody that shows up to support our live streams. So thank you. And we're genuinely appreciative. So, yeah, what time's it getting to be?
5:32.
5:32?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if we should sand on that mushroom or just save it for another day. What do you think? Just keep carving the bear? Or?
I guess it's up to you.
Yeah. How's the views going? Is it killing it with the bear or kind of ho-hum? So it won't hurt anything at all to go.
Probably not.
Sand on the mushroom. Cool. Not that everything's about views, but I do try to
see what happens here.
Yeah. So a lot of you saw us, we carved this. We started this on a live stream, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to finish it up on the live stream. I've been doing a lot of the finished work, just kind of a little bit here and there. I squeeze in an hour or so when I can. Basically, I've attached all these pieces. And these are just little scrap pieces of pine that I found around in the yard, and sanded them up and painted them. And we've drilled holes in them to kind of screw them to the mushroom. So I'm getting ready just to, I use Bondo a lot. That's one of my go-tos for wood filler. And we're just going to sand that little bit of Bondo off and then touch up some white paint. And then I also put in 1/2-inch dowels just to kind of switch it up a little bit. But again, we started this on a live stream, and I thought, a lot of these I know are here to see it get carved, and I just thought it'd be cool to kind of show you guys the finished thing.
We're at 99 likes.
Woo-hoo!
100.
That's as good as I keep it. Sorry. No, it's pretty bad.
Happy dance, Night Owl said.
What's that?
I said happy dance, Night Owl said.
Yeah, my daughter can dance. My oldest daughter, she's actually in school in Florida becoming a pilot, and she's getting close to graduating, so I'm just wicked proud of her. But she's down in Florida flying airplanes every day, and she's going to be jumping on with a small airline, and then I think she works there a number of years, and then she's trying to go to Delta. But she took dance lessons all through right from elementary school up to right through high school, so she could cut a rug. Me, not so much.
Brenda Davis says, "Oh my gosh, that's some beautiful stuff."
Thank you, Brenda.
And Olivet says, "How much?" Then he said 2 million.
Yeah, we would take it for sure. We don't talk about the pricing on the live stream, so to me the money's always the ugly part of the wood carvings and stuff. I make Casey deal with that anyways. But if you're seriously interested and want to inquire, shoot us an email. Our email's right on our YouTube page. So, yep. But thank you very much. We'll be live streaming again Wednesday. What do we start, like 2 o'clock on Wednesdays?
Yep.
So, but a week from today, so we do Wednesdays and Saturdays typically. A week from today, we're going to be we're carving a carving for Scott Battis. So probably some of you would recognize his name. He joins us in the live streams once in a while, and he's been a good customer of mine. But it's going to be a first for me and for us to actually have a customer in the live stream that we're actually doing the carving for. And so that'll be kind of cool. Scott will be with us hanging out, and just figured I'd mention it.
Kalina Emrys said, "I've been on a mushroom kick lately myself, but on a smaller scale. Dremel carving for me."
Right on. What was the name?
Kalina.
Kalina.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very cool. We've got a lot of Dremel carvers that hang out here at Kalina. I don't know who all's in there, but most of the people whose names are highlighted in blue, it's a whole community of artists, and we do have a lot of Dremel carvers. We all kind of support each other, and we learn from each other. So Bear and the Boss Lady is a great place to hang out. They've got good live streams. But Electric Woodlark, Dremel Carves, Amy Joe, so a lot of those kind of channels. But glad you're here. Welcome.
Night Owl's in there.
Yes, Night Owl's he does a lot of Dremel, right? Yeah, check out Night Owl. He's a good guy. He's in Ireland, so we just have people all over the world. It's a pretty cool thing. So,
Kalina says, "It's an amazing community. I love following Jordy Johnson's videos.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Jordy, and Spike Willow was in here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but he hangs out at Jordy's a lot. So I subscribe to Jordy, and I bounce in on his live streams once in a great while.
Brenda says, love crafts, just subscribed.
What's that now?
Brenda subscribed.
Oh, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And CreationDust777. Check out our channel. We've got a lot of long-form videos too. If you can check out some of our other carving videos. We do a lot of adventure stuff as well to kind of go along with the carvings. So.
Kalina's familiar with Amy Jo and said your mushroom is looking magnificent.
All right, very cool. Well, sounds like she's already familiar with everybody. So tell Kalina to put her channel up there if she has a channel so other people can check her out.
She said, I'm subscribed, but I think you're the one that plays country music, and as a proper Chicagoan, I simply can't abide the lives.
You simply can't what?
She can't abide the lives.
Okay.
Heather Thompson said, Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, for sure. Definitely, that's one of the days that we love to celebrate. And Jesus actually rose from the dead and conquered death. So, for sure, happy Easter. That's everybody, huh?
Looks like it.
Actually, just noticed I missed one.
I saw it.
Didn't fill it. going to dust it off. What time's it getting to be?
It is 5:49.
So did you want to do like a scripture reading? Or?
Sure, I think it's over there.
Wow, that's a long one. Huh? So we typically read a scripture at the end of our live stream. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Therefore, God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every name, that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God the Father. And that's Philippians 2:8-11. It looks like. So we're gonna leave you guys with that, and we hope you all have a blessed Easter and have a good evening. We'll see you on Wednesday.